Welcome to Coffee with Kay, where we're going to make sure the coffee is always served strong, but it's also going to come with a side of truth, and that's truth with a capital T. The truth of God, that is. I'm here to equip and encourage you, Saint. Yep, that's right, you. And if you're not familiar with the sainthood, I want to teach you what it is, and I want to invite you to the family. So, let's get right into it.
Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, my cycle hums, ready to race for you. Monday, happy days. Tuesday, happy days. Monday, happy days. Tuesday, happy days.
Hey Lex, welcome to Coffee with Kay. So glad to have you here today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and doing well. Just another day doing all the stay-at-home mom stuff.
Oh, I feel that. If you guys have not seen on my Instagram, Lex is the author who I've had the incredible privilege of helping publish her book with Wildly
Yay!
Bruted's teeny tiny publishing ministry. So I take on one author a year and dedicate time to helping them publish their books affordably. And it's a self publishing process with me so that I can show them the ropes and help them publish a superb novel of their dreams. So
Yes.
Lex's book is called Breathe Broken Soul, and it is going to release this month. We are so excited. We've been working so hard on it, and
So
so has
hard.
Steven, because he has been trying to stop this project for months,
Yes.
and we're almost at its conclusion. Like, we cannot wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
she's here on Coffee with Kay because I wanted her to get to introduce herself to you guys formally and also share some more about her book, about her experience as a first time author. And also, we're going to sneak a special story in there that's from Breathe Broken Soul. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite stories, but just one of the stories I think is so enlightening, that really helped me connect what she went through to real life, and I think will
Hmm.
really help you connect her story to real life experiences or things that you've seen in real life too. So
Yeah.
I'm going to let Lex take the reins and tell you some about herself.
Yes. Okay. So I am Lex Launius. I'm 36. I am married. We've been married for going on 11 years. We have 3 kids, and we live in the North Texas area. Um, I am a birth doula, very part time. I'm mostly just stay at home with the kids. We homeschool. And then now I can say that I'm an author as well, which is exciting. Never really imagined that I'd be adding that title, but here we are. So, yes, Breathe Broken Soul is my first book, and hopefully it'll be out in the next couple of weeks here. So, yes, we have been working very hard on it, and the process was a lot more difficult in a lot of ways than I would have originally imagined that it would have been, but it's been a lot of growth. Just that's like the word for all of it is just growth.
Yes. So if any of you guys listening has had the opportunity of publishing a book, I'm sure you can understand what we are talking about. There's just so many moving pieces, and when you add a spiritual book on top of that, well,
Mm,
now you just bought the spiritual realm into it too.
yep.
And it has been such an incredible process,
Yeah.
in all the good ways and all the bad ways, and
Yeah.
it's just like giving birth. I think it's so similar to
Yeah.
those labor pains of carrying a baby for 9 months, and just the effort and the difficulty to deliver and labor it out.
Yes.
But as soon as it's hits the oxygen and takes its breath of fresh air for the first time, it's just like the most incredible feeling. And I'm
Yeah.
so excited for you to get to feel that feeling
Me
in
too,
a
because
couple
we've been in
weeks.
like I feel like we've been in the crowning stage for a long time.
We really have. We really have.
That's
Oh
what
boy.
it's felt like.
And I think you're very spot on. It's been a lot of unforeseeable mishaps, and that
Yeah.
is just the life of being an author, it seems like,
Yeah.
and a publisher.
Yeah.
So it's been just like such an incredible journey and crazy opportunity. I feel that um, for somebody to trust you with their book is such an honor. And with this book, especially because it is fantastic, you guys.
Uh,
You can go look it up on Goodreads. Our beta readers have already generously put some wonderful reviews on there so
yes.
that you can start getting a hint of what Breathe Broken Soul is like. And Lex has a YouTube, so you can go to her YouTube channel and check out some of her old videos and get to know her that way too. So
Yes.
she is
Yeah.
very well versed in the social tech world. So y'all take advantage of that these next few weeks. So your anticipation for Breathe Broken Soul can just continue to grow as you
Yes.
wait for your pre-order to get in.
Yeah.
So
Ours is continuing to grow as well. So come and sit in the anticipation with us.
yes, please. We have plenty of anticipation to share.
We really do. We really do.
We
Yes.
need to distribute it.
Yeah.
Oh my word. So
Help
as
carry the
this,
load some.
hey, that's what we're called to, bearing one
Yeah.
another's burdens for
There you
real.
go.
So, well, you know what? I'm going to put a prayer request out there this weekend because this next week we're kind of taking off while this manuscript is finished being edited.
Yes.
And we could just use all the prayers that it goes smoothly, efficiently, and as fast as it possibly can.
Yes. Yep.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to put that on Instagram tonight
There you
because
go.
we need that. We really
We do.
do.
We do.
So, as Lex mentioned, she is a wife and she is a mama too. And I think it would be really interesting if you shared with our listeners what part of your life Breathe Broken Soul is taking place in. So, can you kind of give us a synopsis of the timeline that this
Yes.
was going on in your life?
Yes. So it starts pretty early on in childhood and finishes out just within the last couple of years. And so it's a pretty wide range of time. And there's a lot that happens, as you can imagine, because it's over a couple of decades. But yeah, so it's a memoir and it is about just my life in general, which, I'm 36, but I sometimes feel like there have been like 3 or 4 decades just shoved into one or two. Like if you take a snapshot of just age 14 to 24, for example, it just feels like I went through some things and experienced things that sometimes people do over like a 30-year period of time. So it's a lot. There's a lot crammed into one book. The first half of the book is pretty dark. There's a lot of dark themes and elements. It's heavy. And then about halfway through, things just change drastically. And then from there out, the last half of the book, there are still struggles and trials of many kinds, but there's a hopefulness that wasn't there before. And so the first half of the book is, at least according to people who have read it so far and shared with me, there are painful things. It can be hard to read, but if you hold out and you get to the middle, you just know, like, okay, this is going to get better from here out. So,
Yes, that is a really great way to describe that. And I'm glad that you mentioned it just to give people a heads up because I would have to fully agree. You've had
yeah,
a lot of experience in your life that the average person has not. And
yeah,
I just really appreciate that you took the risk in writing this book to give
hmm,
people the opportunity to learn from you, from your experiences, but also that they don't have to walk through those things themselves, if they're
yeah,
struggling in those similar areas.
yeah,
And then the best part that there's healing and redemption, even
yes,
if you
yeah,
have been one of those people to experience what you've gone through. So
yeah,
I don't want to give away too much, but one of the biggest plots of your book not really a plot because it's your real life, but
It feels like a movie. It feels
it
like one.
does.
So we can
I
call it a
mean, I
plot if
think
we
it'd
need
be a
to.
great movie.
I
Um,
agree. Somebody turned it into a movie.
yes. Okay. Well, we're just gonna put that out there. If anybody's listening and has a connection, let us know. Man. So one of the highlights of the book
Yeah.
is your experience in prison.
Yes.
What do people ever say if they find out that you've gone to prison? I'm just curious.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if they meet you or if they get to know you and then you share that. Like what is
Yeah.
people's reaction?
Um, I would say, I was going to say 100% of the time, but maybe I'll say like 99% of the time instead. 99% of the time, it's jaw drop, gasp, no way. Like that's normally what it is. And so whether I am sharing that with someone who is a believer or someone who is not a believer, it's kind of always the same response that people are like, no way, I just never would have known that or guessed that about you. And so sometimes uh, I like to use it as an icebreaker sometimes,
You are very
which
brave.
is well, I am just super open. I've always been like that. Even when I was much younger, I've just been open, and I don't like to hold things in, and so that just comes out when I talk about my life and my story. But there are definitely times where I will say something about, well, I was in prison for 3 years, and if it's a room full of people that had no idea, you just it's really funny to watch the shift in the room at that point where people are like, wait a second, what did you say? Or if somebody overhears it, what did she just say? So I think it's interesting. There's definitely not shame when I talk about that part of my life, because that is the place where my story changes and where life um, just completely went a different direction. And so I'm not, I don't want to say like proud of being a convicted felon. It's not like that, but
Right.
it's such a big part of my story and of the redemption in my story. And so, yeah, I like to share about it. So,
I
and
love that.
I like people's responses, because honestly, the reason that people say I would never be able to tell that or guess that is not because of anything that I've done. It's because of the
Right.
Lord redeeming my life, and that it was like literally from night to day. And so it's not like, oh yeah, that's because I clean myself up and you can't tell. It's because no, that's
Right.
the power of God. That is just
Yeah.
period, point blank, the power of God. So I love opportunities to be able to rejoice with people in that, because that is typically the response of believers is like, whoa, praise the Lord. So yeah.
Awesome. And that's such great inspiration and encouragement for other believers out there to just tell your story and not be
Yeah.
afraid. And there's some like I 100% believe that, and I know God says that when we stay locked in our guilt and our shame, we're absolving ourselves of the blessing of the redemption of the blood of Christ that we
Yeah.
receive in our salvation. We're
Yeah.
being, as Jordan Dooley would call it, blessing blockers, not only
Hmm.
for ourselves, but for other people, because
Yeah.
sometimes all people need is the freedom to know that they can share their
Yes.
past and their present with others, and that there is no condemnation for those who are in Jesus. And
Yeah.
that it just has like a continuous snowball effect that, like, whoa, you went through that? Oh, you would never guess. I went through it too. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, there's probably, I personally, actually, I know one other person who went to prison,
Okay.
and I was really surprised that they went to prison. And I felt so bad because they said it was a horrible experience, but it
Mm,
really changed them for, what I hope is the better.
yeah.
Actually, no, I know two people. I had a
Okay.
family member that did too, and that was really
Okay.
tough. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that's really easy to run away from because
Hmm.
it's such a horrible experience. And
Yeah.
so just that you were willing to talk about it in such a personal way and that you build your life around your testimony is just very commendable. And
Yeah.
so I'm
Thank
just
you.
really thankful that our paths lined up, that I get to
Yeah.
help you share your story with so many other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And
I'm so thankful too. Yeah.
I think I could totally see how people would have that reaction. 'Cause I feel like I did too. And it's just so
Yeah.
funny because it makes me wonder, like, what do we actually think people in prison would look like or
Yes. Right.
act
Yeah.
like?
Yep.
Like, we watch too
Yeah.
much TV, probably.
Yes. Yeah. And
Not realistic
honestly,
enough.
no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's those little, I mean, judgment sounds like a bad word, but it is kind of a judgment call to be like, oh, you don't look like someone who would have experienced this, you know?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I really hope to do with the book is humanize people who have been in prison, humanize people who have been addicts and who have been, on and on the list goes of the type of person that I used to be. I really want to help people see that there's a story behind everybody's situation. And so you don't wake up and think, well, I want to go to prison one day. You don't wake up and think, I want to be homeless or I want to be an addict one day. And so I hope to kind of confront some of those things in people who have maybe not been able to look at certain groups of people with compassion before, to just be able to say, like, hey, this is a real human with a real story. And don't let the outside fool you. Whatever the outside is, whether you have a negative response or feeling when you look at someone or a positive response or feeling, you really don't know the person's story. And so I hope that it'll help, just help people maybe to have compassion stirred in their hearts for people that they may or may not have something in common with at all.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I even felt getting to work with you and read your story and listen to your story, just noticing so many overlaps in our testimonies
Yeah,
from who God saved us from being in our past.
yeah,
And just like you said, like, it is very gradual and it takes a long time. Like, you don't just wake up, that was another thing that I thought was, I would have never guessed that you had like struggles with homosexuality too in your
yeah,
past, and that was something that we related on,
yeah,
and just getting to read your perspective of what drew you to that
yeah,
and your experiences in that, because even though it's the same lifestyle or thinking pattern, we had totally different ways that we exhibited it or
yeah,
acted it out.
yeah,
And I just find it really fascinating when I've gotten to have conversations with people who have struggled with homosexuality in their past, just the differences of like the traumas or the like hurtful thinking patterns that started to lead up to that lifestyle where you eventually just kind of fall into it because yeah, you
yeah,
never, you don't go to sleep when you're 12 years old thinking like, when I will grow up I'm going to be a
yeah.
lesbian. Like,
Right. Yeah. Nope.
it's not really how it works. And
Doesn't
so
go like that.
no, no. And then even coming out of it on the flip side and just seeing how it affects people differently after salvation, I just think is
Yeah.
so interesting because everybody's story is so different. I know
Yeah.
people who have come to Christ who have left the lifestyle, but still have completely different stories than I do.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I think that the way you tell it in Breathe Broken Soul is really, really interesting,
Thank you.
and something that I hope readers would feel drawn to want to learn more about,
Yeah.
because I'm sure there's another person that had similar experiences to you that's out there, that somebody could be able to relate to more
Yeah.
and be closer friend to or share the gospel better with, and just have one more layer of understanding to
Yeah.
be a more understanding person to others.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I was wondering if you could tell us on the podcast one of your prison stories, just a
Yes.
little hook a little peek into Breathe Broken Soul.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there are a lot of stories, but let's see. I think one that would be good to share is about the day that I was transferred to prison from county jail. Because that was just, I had gotten into county jail, I had been sentenced, I was settled. I started to feel like, okay, I can do this. This is what it is. And then they shipped me to prison, and there were just all of these unknowns, because you're leaving one place and they don't even tell you when you're leaving. They don't tell you because they don't want you to be like a flight or escape risk. They don't want you to call your family members and say, hey, Wednesday morning at this time, I'm leaving. So you don't have any information about that. So you're kind of just waiting. And so the day that they shipped us, they put us in this, I call it like the sardine can van. So it is a metal transport van. And inside of it, there are metal walls to separate people. And in some of the vans, they're mesh. And in some of them, it's just like solid metal. And so I have a problem with small spaces. And so, we are shackled. We have handcuffs on, our feet and our ankles are shackled. And we get into the back of this van, and I have really severe IBS. It was much worse back then. So it was severe then. And so I'm in the back of this van, and we have like an hour and something drive. And all I can think about is my stomach is churning, and I'm thinking, I am going to poop my pants in this van.
Oh,
It's going to
no.
happen. It's going to be terrible. I was so anxious. It was just like the, uh, the most negative form of anticipation, that you can experience, where like you're getting ready to be dropped off at prison. And so riding in the back of that van, it can be made to sound kind of like a funny story, like, oh man, I thought I was going to poop my pants in there, but it was really just dehumanizing in a lot of ways. Like it's like animal control. If you ever
Mm.
see the animal control van going around a neighborhood looking for a raccoon or a dog or whatever it is, they stick them in these little metal separated boxes in the back of the van, and really you do just kind of feel like an animal when you're in the back of there. There's no windows. You can't see out. People can't see in. And you could say, well, they do that for, safety and security reasons, but it's just like basically you're in the dark being taken to this new place that you have no idea what to expect. So that was the very beginning of my prison experience, was being in that metal van, cuffed and shackled. And surprisingly, I did not poop my pants.
That's
But
so good.
yes, I mean, seriously, that I
Oh,
just can't
no.
imagine. There were already so many humiliating aspects, of
Right.
prison, of incarceration in general, but I can't imagine if that would have happened. So thankfully, somehow, I didn't. But I was not super eager to get back into one of those vans. We'll just put it that way.
I don't blame you. So I have asked this question to you plenty of times the past 9 months of can you give us kind of details? I don't want to trigger you with that question. So what I will say is when I imagined a prison transport van, I always thought of like an old school bus
Hmm.
from like a Tyler Perry movie or some other movie where somebody's getting sent to prison, and they always have them in a school bus that just has like cages on the windows. And then I was telling you earlier how when I was in our city one day by the jail, and somebody I saw was being walked into this truck, and it kind of looked like a small, I would say like a bread delivery truck, that
Yeah.
like a little white truck, like a little tiny mini semi truck, not really semi truck.
Yeah.
Um, and it had like a ramp, like a little moving
Hmm.
little U-Haul, and no
Yeah.
windows, and it said sheriff on the side, and somebody in a striped suit with shackles walking in the back, and they just closed the door.
Yeah.
And I was so confused. And then
Yeah.
maybe 2 months later, I met you, and then you told me this story, and I was like, oh my word, like that's what was
Yep.
going on. They were going to
Yeah.
prison, and that was, I really saw a
Yeah.
person walk in that truck. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to say, like, if you can kind of give people an idea, if you had to describe what is that kind of like a more accurate picture of what that transport van looks like?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's there's a there's a van that I'm thinking of that I can't think of the name of it, but it's like a couple of my friends who have large families drive them. I think they're like those boxier looking vans. If you know what I'm talking about, then
Yeah,
maybe you can help give me the word for it because I just can't think of it for some reason. I think Nissan has one, and then I think like Mercedes has one or something too. It's like this
yeah.
boxy van.
Not like a
And
15 passenger, like long van, but
mm-mm.
like,
Nope.
yeah, like those, like kind of like a
Shorter.
sprinter van, like the
Yeah.
sprinter vans people will travel around in, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But no windows.
Man.
And yeah, so you can't see where you're going. And they do have different versions of those.
Mhm.
But the one that they transport you to in prison, or at least where I was, no windows, metal walls inside. You can hear each other, but you're not supposed to be talking. There's a mesh wall in between your part of the van and the driver. And it's just like a little, yeah, it's like a metal box basically.
Wow.
And you're just filed into it. And I don't remember exactly how many people were in there with me on that day. I feel like it might have been 4 or 5. It wasn't a ton of us, but they're small. It's not at all like a big school bus,
Yeah.
where you just got a bunch of inmates on a school bus. It's a lot more restrictive than that, I would say. And so yeah, people like you have probably driven by a jail or a prison before and seen those vans, and it
Mhm.
looks almost like it would be the kind of van that somebody would take to go clean someone's house, like where they
Yeah.
have all of their cleaning supplies in the back of it or something like that. It looks pretty unsuspecting, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of metal and a whole bunch of anxiety hidden
Wow.
in the backs of those trucks. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And very hot too, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
Because you don't get princess treatment or prince treatment.
no, no,
And this
none of that at
book
all.
takes place in Florida.
Ooh, yes.
It was even
Yep.
worse.
No, yeah. No air conditioning. Hmm.
Man.
Yep.
Well, thank
Yep.
you for sharing that story with us. I hope that was
Yes.
a hook, line, and sinker for whoever is listening. There's more to that story in Breathe Broken Soul, but I just wanted to highlight too that I I appreciate the detail that was taken to tell this story in the book. Because Lex goes, she has plenty of research snippets and quotes in Breathe Broken Soul that scientifically and psychologically just help to confirm her story through the eyes of a
Mm,
professional.
mm,
For those of you out there who are interested or take interest or understanding in kind of like a social work psychological aspect of the prison system, America's prison system specifically, I think will give you this book will give you a lot of insight, even just
mm,
beyond her story. So I just really appreciated the time that she took to tell the detail of this transport story, because I just feel like there are so many layers to it, from how we handle criminals and the just the
mhm.
dehumanization and the desocialization aspect of the prison
Yeah.
system that begins before you even walk through the doors.
Yeah.
And it puts you in the seat of Lex in this book, just from the very beginning, where
Yeah.
you can just really kind of relate to her, even if you've never experienced going to prison. We can all just sit and imagine. I'm sure all of us have traveled in an unair conditioned car in the deep south and can
Yeah.
at least relate in that aspect, and then
Yep.
just imagine the rest of those layers on top of it.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for sharing that
Yes.
story. This
Yeah.
is a shorter episode of Coffee with Kay than normal. I'm sure Lex will be back, especially after her book comes out. is I
Yes.
would love to do a couple months in recap of its release and what she is going to be up to in the upcoming months after Breathe Broken Soul comes out. But I
Yeah,
wanted you
that would
guys
be
to
awesome.
finally get to meet her through my podcast and some more on my Instagram page these next coming weeks. And if you want to get to know her more, Lex, can you share your other social media websites and links for people to get to find you outside of this podcast?
Yes, absolutely. So if you want to check out YouTube, that's youtube.com/words of this life. You can go to youtube.com/words of this life for my YouTube channel. And my website is lexlaunius.com. So it's LEXLAUNIUS.com. And they can find out more about me in those places. And then Instagram, of course, as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time with me today. I super appreciate you making time to come on here. And guys, make sure you sign up for Lex's email list so you can
Yes.
know as soon as pre-orders
Yes.
hit the stand.
If you go to my Instagram, that link is in my bio there. I
Yes,
believe it should be. If it's not, I'll make sure that it is.
it should be. Last I checked, it was there. So it should still be
Okay.
there. And yeah,
Awesome.
you guys go sign up for that because pre orders are coming out literally in the next week or two, and we cannot wait. And you have to
Yes.
get this book. You're going to love it. So until we talk
Shameless
again,
plug.
oh, yes. Oh, yes. All of the plugs. This is all about you, and all about God. So
Yes.
praise the Lord for
Amen.
this book. It is awesome. You guys are going to
Yes.
love it.
Gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me. There's nothing can hold me. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing in